like salad. Do you like salad?
Welcome to Canadian Salad,
a fun, factual, and friendly podcast about culture and integration in Canada.
I'm one of your hosts. I'm Ho Shen Ho from China, currently living in unceded territory of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations.
And I'm Andrea McCauley, an immigrant from the United States, broadcasting you from the unceded traditional territory of the Lekwungen people, the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations.
And you're listening to Canadian Salad.
Warming up our vocals is very important, obviously,
Yes,
especially in this gig, we have to use our voice.
Especially for the new year. I don't know if you set goals for your voice, Hoshin, but I think in the new year, I just want to have a voice, I guess. I don't really have any aspirations for 2026 in my voice.
Having a voice is important. I think that's to begin with. 2026, I don't have... My first thing on my list is to have a job. That's...
Girl, and you're going to get
first
one.
and foremost.
Yes.
Let's hope so.
You are going to get one. A good one. But today...
It's not about jobs.
Not about jobs. No, it's a new year, 2026. And I was really thinking about this word new. And I was like, oh, culture of new. What does that mean?
Renew.
Or renew, yes. And so I have noticed differences when I travel abroad. I have had different experiences with some friends from our cohort from China, gifts that they would give. And so I thought, how do cultures perceive buying new versus used items? Because I think there's a big difference. And so this episode, we're going to unpack how individuality and social acceptance in cultures can heavily impact the buying decision of a person. So it's going to be about shopping. So hopefully if you like shopping, folks. Yeah.
Actually, not true. Not really true.
If I had money, I do.
I don't really like shopping that much, actually. There's a lot.
Really?
Not really my thing. No.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I have a lot of stuff already, honestly.
You don't need
Sometimes
any
too
more.
much.
Really?
Yeah. Sometimes too much.
I got you. So Hoshin, then when you do shop, I would love to hear your perspective. Do you prefer to buy new or used items, and why?
Right now, mostly if I buy something for me, for like, for practical use, to keep myself warm or buy some furniture for my house, I always prefer something used because I'm broke.
Makes sense.
A lot of it is for financial reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was younger, I definitely tend to buy new things.
Okay.
Because I was not financially smart.
Sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
None of us
definitely
are
think,
when we're young, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think like a lot of the decision making of me right now buying used or new is really about whether I can afford it or whether I can save money on it. Yeah. But also sometimes it depends on condition or like what it is. If I usually like digital anything, like I don't want a laptop or phone, I would definitely prefer buying something new because I feel like for me, like a camera, for example, those things are really finicky, and I prefer something brand new that don't need to worry about whether any damage or anything that's hidden. I don't really know. But like clothes, furniture,
I
don't know, some tools, I definitely would prefer use because mostly is financial consideration rather than, I know some people maybe think about environmental, but I'm more of like economical kind of decision maker. Yeah.
I'm just curious though, when you had a job and you had a stable income, would you tend to buy used or new?
Still used because I'm in ballroom. Like I do buy a lot of clothes just for ballroom, not for my like everyday wear, but it's just like for a costume or something. Every month I have to buy a completely new outfit for ballroom just for that one time or two times. It doesn't make any financial sense. Every time I do ballroom, I buy a completely new costume. It's just too costly. Even though I have a full-time job, I have a steady, good income.
Got you. Okay. So that's interesting. It's very interesting.
What about you?
For me, I grew up very poor, so we were usually given and donated clothes.
Yeah.
My dad always bought used cars that never lasted longer than 2 or 3 years. So it seems very cheap. But even when I got into my like 20s and 30s, I actually and I think this depends on the culture of where you are, but when I was living in the Seattle area, having something new or a brand name showed that you weren't poor. And I think for myself, like I grew up poor. So having jeans from Abercrombie and Fitch was like, OMG, look at the tag on my pants. But then I moved to Portland, and Portland is all about kind of vintage, reused. It's that environmentally conscious, but I would get compliments on clothes I would buy from thrift stores and be like, oh my gosh, I got it from a thrift store. People are like, no way. I'm like, yeah, way. It was like this sense of pride. It was like, wow. And even still, like my husband and I, we buy most of our household items on Marketplace. They're usually used. Clothes as well. Clothes for our son, toys even, Christmas gifts. Like we just don't mind used because one, economically, it makes sense. But two, we've never had this kind of elevated idea of brands and luxury and establishing ourselves. It was very much, I want to express myself. And you know what? I will shop used because I like it. So that's for me.
Yeah. But I personally have this stereotype or bias to think like Americans in general love that brand stuff. I think because of Hollywood and stuff, a lot of this media just like everyone somehow having some luxury good is like means you made it. That's the American dream that you have to like have a sports car and have a private jet. And I feel like this material wealth kind of longing is very like deep rooted.
Sure.
So I definitely would would think Americans would prefer new than used.
Yeah. I would say that was more true maybe 10, 15 years ago, but it's kind of shifted. And so we're going to unpack that though. We're going to unpack all of that. So
let's do that.
I'll share that with you.
Oh, good.
Anyway, so in doing this research, there was a distinct theme that I found in the research that actually culturally, it really depends on your buying choices are influenced whether you are from an individualistic culture or a more collectivist culture. And we're going to look at individualistic cultures, primarily Western cultures, because those are predominantly individualistic in the ways that they think and shop and everything like that. Ideally, or even just like the theme of individualistic cultures is I buy it because it makes me feel good. So in individualistic cultures, we are motivated by individual preferences, self-expression. This is my taste. There was a great article, and if you are new to our podcast, thank you for joining us. Please know that all of our sources are on our website, www.canadiansalad.ca. Check them out. But there was a Culture and the Consumer article in 2019, and they said that in individualistic cultures, consumers tend to have an independent self-construal where people perceive themselves as distinct from others. Therefore, consumers have a goal to prioritize the pursuit of their personal satisfaction and the cultivation of their unique qualities and abilities. So it's all about uniqueness, right? I am who I am. And I think with a lot of like Vogue and a lot of the fashion industry being very much, do you remember Lady Gaga's bacon dress? Quite a few years ago?
Bacon dress. Yeah.
It was a dress completely made out of bacon.
I mean, beef. I think it's beef.
It was bacon.
It was bacon? Okay, I thought it was beef.
We'll have to look it up.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Anyway, but yeah, so that was something that I don't know if that would have gone as people look at it and be like, oh, that's weird. But like Lady Gaga was like, this is just, it's Lady Gaga. But it's also, this is my individual self-expression. This is who I am. It makes me feel good. That same journal also pointed out that the self is priority, right? Like, I don't care what other people think. And I felt that growing up. And I do feel like that can kind of get a bit blurred when you're in maybe you want to be accepted by another group of friends. Like in high school, I went to a very wealthy high school. And so I worked really hard to buy those Abercrombie and Fitch corduroy pants. And when I did, I felt a little bit more accepted. But then, of course, over time, graduated high school, I was just like, who cares as long as I feel good and as long as it complements my body, right?
You mature.
Yeah. And there was a lot of fashion shows too that were just like buy clothes based upon your body type, which is a very individualistic approach. What makes you feel joy? We see this in like the Fab Five with Queer Eye when
True.
they might have more higher brand names, but the focus is on the person, not the collective, which is a very different thing than other cultures. And I would say even in like workspaces, like you would pursue maybe a suit or a nicer watch so that you might gain a bit more respect from your colleagues at work. That within individualistic cultures. But again, that is because it's a focus on self as opposed to more what collective cultures actually focus on, which we'll get into. Any thoughts on that? Hoshin, have you noticed that in coming to the Western part of the world?
I think so. I think I love the individualistic part but also I see the irony in it because I understand that people want to buy something maybe like high end or special and use special things just by themselves that can showcase that individuality. Because usually something that's used is like usually quite like mass produced, right? Something new only this season, right? So like no one has it yet. No one haven't used it yet. So it can definitely help you to showcase your individuality or elevate your sense of superiority even. So I definitely get that in this kind of individualistic culture, if you want to stand out. Absolutely. And when I was younger, I definitely also have that need, I would say, to feel that as well. Yeah. Because I think when you're younger, like you said, when you're younger, I think when we were all younger, we were trying to find this sense of identity. And somehow how we dress is an important part of how we show up for ourselves and show ourselves in group settings. So I feel like when we're younger, we definitely have that more need to do that. But when we slowly mature, we realize that, okay, maybe our identity does not have to rely on what we wear.
Yes. Yeah.
So I just want to echo on that. But I also want to add another point is, I think this kind of cycle about how identity should be shown through our clothes or what we possess. Part of it, I will have to blame the media too. As you said, you also mentioned about Vogue or whatever. Part of it is also the media kind of telling us that's the way.
Yeah.
But I don't think innately
shedding
it
those
has to be that way.
trends. Right.
Yeah, setting those trends. Oh, you should buy this bag to show that you are a cool girl. Right. You should wear this hat to show you that you're a cool man or whatever, a cool boy. So yeah, I think part of it is the media discord.
For sure. And that's I would agree 1,000%. The media does have a huge influence. Like social media is a huge influencer for what to buy kind of a thing, but things are changing. So anyway, collective cultures, instead of I buy it because it makes me feel good, I buy it because it's a socially accepted quality brand. And this, I think, is more pronounced in more collectivistic cultures. So that same article, The Culture and Consumer, they point out that collectivist cultures such as India and most cultures outside the Western world, they perceive themselves as interconnected with their in-groups, obligated to them, and socially kind of what I do depends on what my network says. So their goal is to prioritize meeting other people's expectations, fitting in through making consensus choices. So choices that everyone agrees is a good choice, as opposed to I saw it, I like it, I buy it. And then cultivating their important relationships. Like it does set up a sense of I can maintain a relationship with my friends at school because everyone mutually agrees that this brand is good and popular and looks nice, so I'm going to buy it. So there is an overlap, like you said, like there is a bit of contradiction, but I would say it's definitely more pronounced socially in more collective cultures. People from non-Western or collectivistic cultures tend to consider the needs of others when deciding what to buy. And this article points out that eBay actually failed in China, which if people aren't familiar, eBay, I mean, it was really big when I was like in high school. It's huge. It's like, what? You can buy online and use? This is amazing. But they actually pointed out in this article that eBay actually failed in China because the online marketplace didn't consider how the collectivistic consumer didn't provide a connection or a space to validate the purchase decision. So eBay was very much individualistic. It was like, what do you want? What do you see? And because there wasn't a space or an opportunity for the consumer in China to have a more collective approach, have their in-group or their network weigh in on their buying decision. They didn't even go into it. They didn't want to engage with it because it wasn't something that actually engaged their social group, which is one reason why it failed. Another reason is because in collective cultures, what you buy demonstrates your social status. So same article, Asian American consumers are consistently more likely to choose brand name products like Sprite, Crest over less costly generic items. And this was just within like grocery items because brands mean quality. And I wish my dad growing up believed that too. But he would just buy these shoes at some whatever store. And like within 2 weeks, they're falling apart. But brands are very much a huge part of like your decision making because they show a type of social status. If I wear, Ralph Lauren or Abercrombie & Fitch or Tommy Hilfiger, those brands show that I am in the in and I have a
money
status. I'm
status.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yes.
Unfortunately, yeah. And so more collective cultures will buy new because of this. And this is very interesting, and I'm very excited to hear about your perspective, Hoshin. But there was a paper it was a master's thesis out of Uppsala University, which is in Sweden. But the title of the thesis was Exploring Chinese Consumers' Attitude Towards Secondhand Consumption, Shame or Not. It was a very fascinating article. Again, we'll post it in our website. But consumer behavior under this idea of face consciousness manifests as people displaying their social standing and wealth through consumption. And it is this, we've talked about saving face, and that's kind of the underlying current of face consciousness is like you are mindful or conscious of the reaction and the acceptance of other people around you.
You are,
before
yes.
you buy that item, right? It would be like me thinking, I can't buy this unless I know what Mark thinks of it. I don't give a flying flip what Mark thinks of this sweater that I want to buy. I'm going to buy it. I like it. But that's not the same within countries like China. Social face also represents an individual's social reputation, which emerges from feedback from the society and from others during communication. Consumption in China, according to this particular person, said that consumption is highly tied to social standing. It's the way to move up the social class ladder, which they point out this is evident in the contrast between China's low ranking in the World Bank's per capita income and its status as the world's largest luxury goods market. So,
Really is.
yeah, it's I don't know. Do you have any? I'd love to hear your.
That remind me of the very popular show in China, I think a couple of years ago. It's about this woman, this couple actually, they're in their 30s. And then they're like, because they started a business and suddenly becomes really wealthy. They were not from like not really wealthy to suddenly become really wealthy. And they want to climb the social ladder. And the first thing the wife did was to buy a lot of luxury bags to like and like attend this kind of like luncheons or afternoon teas that is hosted
with her bags.
With her bags to show up in these like luncheons and teas with a lot of other wives from rich families. And the show make a huge deal of how different brands of bags shows different social standing.
Wow.
Yeah. Like it's exactly what you was trying to show. Like luxury goods is in China, I would say is such a important symbol of status, of wealth. Even people who don't have the money, they will still try their best to buy it.
Wow.
Just to show, to kind of have this hope that maybe this bag can help them climb up the status, even though they maybe not even there yet.
Yeah. That's
Mm-hmm.
so interesting. And I remember there was a friend of ours, I don't remember her name, from our cohort. She was from China. And it was my birthday that I think it was the first year in our master's program. And she gave me a gift and I open it. It's a gold necklace. And I was shocked. I was like, and it had a little diamond inlay on the inside. And I was floored because no one has ever gotten me anything that nice. No friend long enough in my life has ever bought me like a gold necklace. Mark got me a gold ring.
Andrea, I love you, but I don't think I ever give you anything gold.
I know.
You got me a gold coin.
No,
you
it
got
wasn't
me
gold.
a coin.
No,
Silver.
it was silver. Yeah.
Silver coin.
But, and then, so I went online. I was like, I am so curious how much this was. And I looked online and it was like well over $200. And I thought,
That is
oh
crazy.
my gosh. For them, though, it showed her social standing. It showed
That
her,
shows that she has money.
she has
Show that she
money.
cares for you.
And that she cared. Yeah. It was really, anyway, and we were really good friends. Like we would chat every now and then, but we weren't always hanging out. So it was so shocking to me that was given to me. But when I read this, I was like, that memory came to my mind. And I thought, oh, wow, that makes sense a little bit.
Yeah. It also reminds me like I grew up poor. My mom always told me we have to dress clean and nice because how you look, what you wear, like matters whether people are going to look down on you. But if you dress up not like tidy and clean or not nice, that this stigma, people are going to look down on you, think that you are this nothing. Right. It's very heavily rooted in people's mind, at least that's in my mom's mind. Yeah, that classism I think is stronger in more collectivist cultures like India too. I wouldn't say, I mean, there was this classism of similar to what you say about what you wore determined how people thought of your, they're poor or not. We already knew we were poor. There's nothing I could change about it, but I never had that conversation with my parents, ever. They were never trying to make sure that we wore our best dress because of how they wanted to please other people. That was never a conversation. So the difference between an individualistic culture versus a more collective one, which is like, to your point, this is like, we have to establish ourselves in society. And if we don't, then we'll bear the brunt of just like discrimination and lack of opportunities. And I don't want to say this is like only in collective cultures, like this is the same across the board in every situation. Of course, there's going to be nuance and variation, but as a whole, I do feel like there are these bigger differences, which kind of leads us into used and the culture of secondhand or buying used items. So back to like more individualistic cultures. So environmental consciousness is like probably a lot more paramount in, I would say, even North America than, I don't know, about places like Australia and Britain and the UK and things like that. But the concept of thrift shopping, and this is out of Media Magazine, the concept of thrift shopping and vintage clothing has always seen as a renaissance. It's celebrated as a trendy choice, and it's really valued. Cities like London, Paris, and New York boast bustling vintage markets and thrift stores, which are frequented by fashion enthusiasts. I think recently research has come out that the fashion industry is it's the number 2 contributor to pollution on the planet. So the oil industry is the first and the fashion industry is the second, because it takes uses a lot of natural materials to make new clothes. And because of this revelation in the Western world, and I would say other parts of the globe, a lot more people are trying to, how do we recycle? How do we take pre-used clothing and actually stitch and make new clothing? So it's something that's becoming more celebrated among celebrities and individualistic cultures, secondhand or used. Again, there's a pride that I am not contributing to environment pollution by buying brand new. I bought these jeans from a vintage store or a used store. And it was like in many countries too, in many European countries, hand-me-downs, which, do you know what hand-me-down is? Yes, like from your older brother to older brother or neighbor, friends, that kind of a thing. Yeah. There's a long tradition of passing down clothing and goods through generations, which normalizes that buying of secondhand. It's not a weird thing. This isn't a stigma. This is something that we've seen growing in popularity, and it's always been normalized, I would say, because again, we don't have such a social desire to please other people because we are more individualistic. Now, collective cultures, secondhand can equal poverty or bad luck. So this is out of that journal again. So in wealthier Asian nations like Japan and South Korea, buying used items can sometimes carry a stigma, which is associated with poverty or bad luck, similar to your point. In parts of Asia and even Africa, markets teeming with bales of used clothing are often from Western countries. This is not uncommon because
a lot of countries that couldn't buy new. So used clothes were often in markets. And I remember going to even Nepal. I'm in the foothills of the Himalayan mountains, high up, 4,000 or 5,000 elevation. And I see this little boy and he's got a Britney Spears shirt on. And I'm just floored because this kid probably has no idea who Britney Spears is. And here we are, like he's barefoot, running around, really happy kid, sweet kid. And he's got a Britney Spears shirt on.
I did it again.
And even I was in the Solomon Islands, and I remember Solomon Islands is a very tiny country, but very beautiful country. I highly recommend people going. But I remember when we went shopping the island of Honiara, which is the main bigger island. In the city there, the only things you could buy were used.
Oh.
Whether it was fashion, appliances, it was really odd. It was rare to find anything new. And that's just because a lot of Western countries export used clothing or clothing that didn't sell at stores to other countries and more countries that might have more poverty.
Okay.
So you're not wasting, which is great. There's waste in the landfills and stuff. But to my point, economic necessity within collective cultures, you would only have secondhand if you couldn't afford it.
True.
There would be no option. So I don't know did you see many like secondhand stores or used clothing stores in China?
No, absolutely not.
No.
Thrift store is not a thing. I learned about thrift store is a thing after I went out of China.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, when I was in Hong Kong and Macau, we do have these kind of sometimes luxury goods secondhand store, but they're luxury goods.
Gotcha.
And even that, it was not common when I was younger.
Really?
It was more common when I was older.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if that's just because maybe I'm older, so I'm like notice more stuff.
More aware. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But yeah, definitely not a thing when I was younger. And thrift store was not a thing.
Okay.
And people we have hand-me-downs. That is a common thing. But because I'm like the oldest son in the family, I never had hand-me-downs. Usually just I
Lucky.
hand down
Yeah.
I hand down someone else, like my brother.
Yeah.
And we do have this tradition of buying new clothes every year. Like Lunar New Year's tradition to buy new clothes, for example. Never secondhand. Even secondhand cars are a common thing.
Yes. A lot of even friends from China, Korea here, they have nice quality cars. New. And
exactly.
after a few years, they've,
whether they get a new one.
They get a new one. Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is very different than my framework of thinking. I'm like, if
it
runs, great.
Like I told my mom about like people here usually drive secondhand cars. All my exes drive secondhand cars because I always tell my mom that. My mom was like, always I was slightly surprised. I was like, can they not afford a new car? I was like, they probably can, but why?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
interesting.
Why? Yeah. But in my mom's mind, you have a car, you should be new. So I think that's the culture of things. And again, it tied to like phase about,
yes,
you have a used thing, that means you're poor.
Yes.
And it's like poor is a bad thing, so they don't want that. This idea of used must be bad quality.
Yeah.
It's going to be as great. So they don't, it's not, they usually don't necessarily think it's worth the money or worth the risk of buying something going to break fair soon.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
My mom also sometimes this mentality was like, if it's good, why would they sell it? Why would they sell it like, again, why would they sell it secondhand?
True.
If it's really that good, why wouldn't they keep it? My mom sometimes asked me that.
Interesting, yeah.
If they get it second, means maybe it's broken, maybe it's not that good, maybe it's out of fashion. There must be some reason they have to throw it away.
Yeah. That's interesting because it's kind of like the utilitarianness of it. If I can use it, I'll keep it. But if I'm not using it, why keep it? That's my mentality. So that's why I would give away something or sell it.
Not my mom.
Not your
my
mom.
But
well, but I think generational differences for sure. I think there's a lot to be said about like your mom's
older
perspective.
generation, older generation tend to be like hoarders, right? They will just keep whatever as it's usable. They'll keep it. They will not throw it away. And then
they do.
We are a bit different. I have so many of this. I don't need. I rarely wear this shirt. Let me just sell it.
Exactly.
Give it out.
Exactly. Yeah. I can't tell you how many used appliances that I've gotten for free from whether marketplace or someone who's just, hey, I have this blender I don't use anymore. Do you want it? I'm like, great. But it's a different mentality. But
very different.
To kind of close, there is actually a resurgence in these collective cultures with secondhand luxury items. So vintage and used is actually becoming more popular in collective cultures. This was a Hub of China article, 2025, and they said that Chinese consumers, especially millennials and Generation Z, are increasingly buying pre-owned luxury goods for luxury consumption instead of always buying new. They're saying that the shift reflects just tighter economic ability to buy new, right? There's not enough much money, tariffs, and then, but also growing environmental awareness. This eco-conscious mentality is growing across the world. And so it's reshaping, it is, yeah. And it's reshaping the way people view luxury. Like that show, I wonder if that show would actually do as well, or if that woman would do as well just buying the brand new, or if she actually would maybe buy secondhand luxury and that would have the same effect. I don't know. That's an interesting question. Out of Vogue magazine in October 2025, they pointed out that in the past year, 46% of luxury consumers in China have purchased secondhand and or vintage goods. And the reason for that is that the item it's like a one of a kind to your point. It's a unique appeal. It's got a history attached to it. Jewelry and watches are the most purchased luxury items right now in China, with over half of secondhand luxury shoppers, 56%, purchasing a timepiece in the last 12 months. And the top reason is because they're exclusive and I can't find that kind of a watch in any other store. So it's really cool because people are looking at this used item, luxury, of course, but still looking at it as unique and one of a kind and having that be a sign of a social status as opposed to just it being new, which is very fascinating. There was a paper that came out of Washington State University, a master's thesis by Abu Bakar, and he interviewed Chinese, American, and Bangladeshi students. And a Bangladeshi participant in the survey said, I buy secondhand only if it's branded and good quality. It makes me feel confident, so no one can tell that it's old. So still, there is this idea, like I still want to save face, but I'm willing to buy secondhand if it's quality enough and it doesn't give off that it is used, which is very interesting. So there is a resurgence in, or at least this, I think we're challenging these cultural expectations maybe, or we're normalizing secondhand a bit more in collective cultures.
I mean, or I would phrase it in a way that people still want to have face, so they want luxury goods, but then they're not rich, they're broke. So they want to be, they want a cheaper way to pretend to be in the upper class.
That's nice. Interesting.
That's how I would see it. Actually, I would phrase it that way because I don't think, I don't know, maybe I just don't believe that some people want to be more environmentally friendly because I've been to China. Like I go home quite often.
Like I know.
Once a year. I don't think people are very environmentally conscious.
Would you say the younger generations though are?
Maybe slightly more, but again, I'll use the word slightly, not that much more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely not that much more.
Saving face is still more important.
Yeah. Also, if they really that environment friendly, I think it's more important to buy used clothing than luxury goods. Because luxury goods buy like one or two, three or four if you really have money. But clothing, you buy way more, like everyday wear.
Sure.
If you really in that environment friendly, like conscious, why don't you buy everyday clothes more secondhand than luxury goods?
Yeah.
So I would actually like to believe that they just want a more economical way to pretend to be upper, like a higher social class.
Got you. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I can't disagree. I value that perspective because it is influencing like this environmentally conscious. Is that the reason though why people are doing it? No. I would say maybe in more individualistic cultures, it's I want to be more eco-conscious, so I'm going to only purchase used. I see that. And then real quick, in Japan, it's called vintage exception. In Japanese retail, this is out of a article, Permanent Style 2023. Vintage often serves as a cultural exception to the modern throwaway culture. So in Japan, there are vintage districts where they designate areas as vintage clothing districts where they basically highlighting, oh, this is vintage, you should buy this. It's interesting because even Japan's government has a lot of regulations on used cars. You can't really buy a used car, and if you do, it has to meet a very long list of certain criteria, which makes sense because used cars are not as eco-friendly, but they also can emit a lot more toxins. So they do have that. But this is out of GRAPI, Japan, back in 2020. Japan's product safety, electrical appliance, and material law contains an actual antique vintage exception. The rule is that secondhand electrical goods cannot be sold without a specific PSE mark, like we've said that this is safe, you can use this, that's fine. The exception is that there was, I guess people weren't very happy about this, about like regulating what is safe. And so following this public outcry, the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry allowed the sale of, quote, vintage electronics, like classic synthesizers or tube amps without the mark, provided that they're marketed as antique or for research and collection purposes rather than everyday use. Which makes sense. I mean, there's reason to be said that like you can have more accidents, there are electrical currents, maybe there's shortages or whatnot. But it's just interesting that the government has a vintage exception policies. In the States, are you kidding me? No, they're not. You can sell whatever you want to sell, whether it's safe or not. I mean, you're liable to get sued if you like burn down your house. At the same time, but that's on you because you bought used. Again, it's very individualistic. So there's not this idea of kind of a collective mindfulness of what is vintage and what is safe vintage and what is allowed. So anyway, that's kind of our episode. Any final thoughts, Hoshin, on individualistic cultures and collective with buying new or used?
I think, of course, I encourage people to do more, like to buy more used because, one is, of my perspective, as I mentioned at the beginning, is more
affordable.
Of economic, more affordable.
Yeah.
I think money can use in some other ways, better ways, and like for experience, for example, not necessarily for material wealth. And also second is definitely environmental consideration. And third, I think if all of us decided to create this culture that used goods are more preferred, then we are in general creating a better society in the sense that we don't necessarily have to look at what people own to decide their social status, especially in Asian countries, in collective countries. Yeah. So then we kind of put material wealth outside of determine people's identity or status, standing. And I think that would be more ideal. Yeah. So I would hope that next generation or generations to come will prefer buy used goods rather than new goods.
There's so much. There's so many use. We created so much. And
we created way too much. Yeah.
Way too much. Exactly. I agree with you. I think collective cultures have that ability, and even individualistic cultures have the ability to prioritize taking care of our planet. And that's where I think individualistic cultures could do better at, is being more collective minded, where you're thinking about the greater good of everyone and you're making purchasing decisions based on what's best for everyone as opposed to just what's best for you. You can still have your individuality. You can still self-express, but you can do it in a way that's mindful of its social impact. You can do it in a way that's mindful of economic impact. Yeah. So maybe each type of culture can have a little bit of influx of the other. Right? Where collective cultures can have a little bit more, hey, maybe we shouldn't judge people based on what they're wearing and it's okay. And people can be people, individuals, and individualistic cultures can be more collective minded, where we can be making purchasing decisions thinking about the greater good. So,
yeah, exactly.
What a lovely way to wrap up the episode, Hosh.
Thank you, Ginger, for preparing the episode.
Welcome.
I learned a lot.
Me too.
Learned a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. And now, drum roll, blah, 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 blah. Our very first 2026 Canadian Salad Pop Quiz.
Salad Pop Quiz, which it's always my favorite part.
Yes, me too. Hoshin, would you like to go first, my love?
Okay, if I want to go first, look at the very first question of 2026, a Canadian Pop Quiz.
Yes, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Gold star. Here we go.
As of June 2022, in Canada, Which province had the highest number of used merchandise stores?
Which province? Ooh. I'm torn. I'm torn between Ontario and British Columbia. But it's probably neither. Ooh, might be a more...
I don't know. I don't
Remote.
know. You have to give me one answer. You cannot give me two.
Okay. There's more people in Ontario, so Ontario.
Final answer?
Final answer.
Yay, you got it. It's Ontario. And it's like, is leading is way more than second place, like Quebec. Ontario had 465 used merchandise stores. Quebec's second place, 250.
Really?
So Ontario almost double Quebec.
Wow. I'm surprised BC isn't double. I feel like we're a bit more...
BC is third place, 193.
Okay.
190.
I mean, we have less people, but I feel like the West Coast is a bit more like lazy coast a bit. We're just not as, I got to do something. That's interesting. Okay. All right. My question to you is, according to a 2025 survey, what percentage of adult Canadians purchased at least one pre-owned item in 2025?
Come again? How many households?
What percentage of all Canadians purchased one used item in the past year? What percentage of all Canadians?
Oh. Well, if you use my friend as an example, as the data point, I would say 100% or close to
100%?
it.
Okay.
But I don't think that would be the case. I don't think it would be the case. Some people, there's rich people don't buy any used goods, I would assume. I don't know, 88%.
Okay, you are so close. It is 77%.
87%.
77. So 77, this is out of an Angus Reid Group survey that, so 77% of adult Canadians purchased at least one pre-owned item in the past year, which is a figure that holds steady across all income levels. So that's really good.
Gagged.
Yeah, there you go.
Gagness of Adine, okay?
Gagness of Adine? What?
Yeah, the girl who gagged.
Oh.
From Hunger Game.
Oh, so you haven't seen that or read that.
Do you know Katniss Everdeen from the movie? Have you watched the movie?
No.
Okay, you don't get the joke.
Welcome to my husband's world, and most friends, they're just like, oh, yeah, Andrea hasn't seen it. Yeah, okay.
Wow. Okay.
Well, thank you for joining us, everyone.
Yep.
So thankful to have another 2026 with you. You can find us on social media, on Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok. And you can find us across all major platforms. Please subscribe, leave us a message on how you feel about this episode of the podcast in general, and share with your family and friends. And we'll be back.
Give us some feedbacks.
Yeah, exactly. Let us
Tell us how much you love us.
Yeah.
And tell us your New Year resolution.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's to buy more used goods.
That's a good New Year's resolution.
Exactly.
That's achievable by everyone, too.
Very achievable.
So achievable. Yes. Just don't buy used food.
Use what? Someone who chew up food who someone chew up.
Yeah, you're not birds.
Anyway, thank you so much for listening to the podcast.
You.
We will see you next week.
Next week. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Canadian Salad is written and produced in British Columbia, Canada by Hoshin Ho and Andrea McCoy. Theme music is by Naver Avatyan from Pixabay.
This has been a good Janklin production.